Hello. I'm reusing the same template that I used last year for Overwatch League. I think this was what I used for the Pro-Am. Hang on. There we go. Now it's not as loud in my ears. I'll turn it up just for the chat. But yeah, so how I'm going to be doing this is I've gotten my second monitor here. All 3 different regions in Apac: Korea, Japan, and Pacific. And what I'm going to be doing, I know that they have all already started, but I'm going to give my opinions. This is kind of my opinions before everything had started, and I don't think there's any massive surprises so far, except for maybe like From the Gamer getting a 3-0. I think people underrated From the Gamer a little bit. Like, who do they 3-0? I mean, they 3-0'd Vesta Crew, which doesn't really mean much. Poker Face getting a 3-0 is big. On, I think that would probably be Sunprisa. Yep, they 3-0'd Sunprisa, and then Team Falcons obviously 3-0'd Runaway. And I don't think any of those results are too surprising. So not going to affect my power rankings very much. Meanwhile, in Pacific, I kind of already expected how things are going a little bit. Obviously, Zhao Lian, I am a known simp for, so I was hoping that he would be doing a little bit better than he is, but you know, we can't all have what we want. And then for Japan, it has a clear top 1 team, and then 2 other teams who I can talk about being alright. And so I'll get started. So that means I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams to talk about. Which means that I can also get rid of, like, all this down here. This is going away. Bye-bye. That'll make it look a little bit nicer. All right. Starting from the bottom. The question really comes in, is this already where Vesta Crew would come in? Right, because Vesta Crew is a little bit fraudulent given how far they've come. Their only real main positive, I wouldn't really say it's their roster. Their roster's very underwhelming off Dagon, very middling backline. Dart and Gurium, or Gurium, I don't fucking know how to say it. Not very good. Minute's pretty decent, but not great. The only main positive I would give to this team is Daiwan Smooth, who is, Dai Smooth, I'm guessing, or Daiwan Smooth. I think it's Dai Smooth, who is a pretty solid coach. He's been coaching this game for a very long time, since 2019. Not 2019. 2022 is when he started coaching, but he's been playing since 2019 as well. So I have a lot of trust in Daiwan Smooth. But he obviously, Vesta Crew is better than some of the Pacific and Japanese teams. As sad as that is to say. I do think I'll start. This is hard. I know so little about one of these teams in particular in Japan that it's making it a little bit hard. So I'm going to start with the thing that's going to break my heart. I think my lowest rated team right now in the Pacific region who's relevant, I don't need it to be this big, is unfortunately, it's the wrong color. Unfortunately, RT, why is it still italics as well? 400 ended up being too small. I planned this out ahead of time, clearly. RTFM. I thought I turned off italics. RTFM. My unfortunate lowest ranked team right now. And I say unfortunate because I'm a massive Zhao Lian simp. I think Zhao Liang is baby top dragon, is how I've talked about him in the past. He's really, really good. Hang on. This is a good one. He's a very consistent player. The only problem is he's been on this kind of roster with Ruler, Maoli, Jinsung, Ayako, Kurumi, and Hope for a long time. And I don't think this is a very good roster. It makes me really sad to say. I wish I could put this team higher. I really wish I could. But it's just not that good of a roster. Like they don't even have a very impressive coaching staff. Like I don't recognize any of those names over there. They're all Chinese, which makes me happy because I love Chinese Overwatch if nobody's been able to tell. But I'm just sad, man. RTFM just makes me sad because I wish they were better. But I do think I can put the team that I know nothing about next. That's Insomnia. I don't know anything about Insomnia. I've got to be honest. I know Blink and Karu a little bit. I know Ares a little bit, who's their coach. Blink and Karu are okay, kind of middling support players. Karu actually ended up playing on Poker Face when they were pretty solid. Yeah, like they played, like he was on a really good team as a substitute, though. That's why I recognize him, because he's a substitute on this roster. Meanwhile, Blink is very little knowledge that I have of him. He was apparently on a team called Invincible in the Asia Pacific Contender Series, who did very poorly. And it is just kind of this team. And they technically went... Like, they took a map off of Varel. They beat Sixblow, who's also in this, but Sixblow have upgraded a lot. And this whole roster was playing together in that Contenders tournament, but I just don't think that they're very good. Like, they're about on the same level as RTFM, who back then were NGUK, except that team didn't have Zhao Liang, and now they have Zhao Liang again. And now that team is a little bit better. So even this placement is a little bit, you know, are they better, are they not? They're in different regions, so how can we know, right? But I do think they're another one of the better Japanese teams. Or not another one, but one of the better Japanese teams. Even though they are currently 5th in the standings, that's only because they have had one match. Meanwhile, Panda is 2-1 and above them because they technically have a better map differential. Like, they have more map wins, rather. They're below Sixblow and Arise Project, who are... Like, Arise Project kind of got a free win, I think. And Sixblow is actually an alright team. Not alright enough to escape 13th, but they're alright. As I already said, Insomnia were better than Sixblow in the past. Excuse me. With a slightly worse roster. Right? I'm pretty sure... Yeah, Sixblow got 3-0'd by Invincible, who ended up becoming Insomnia, right? Am I crazy? Yeah. Invincible became Insomnia, and Sixblow were worse than them back then, with a far worse roster, I'd say, because now they have Pressure, who is a long-standing, all-right Korean tank player in Chinese Contenders, and an all-right player in Korean Contenders. A kind of middling one, but still. A middling tank player in Korean Contenders is a fantastic... I need to turn the music up a little bit, actually. I just realized. Is a fantastic tank in this kind of region. As fucked as that might be to say. And their other Korean player is Dukes. I feel like I know this player. Yeah, they were a substitute on Panthera, so not really relevant. I don't know how good they are. But Pressure is enough of an upgrade on Tank to where I would say, yeah, this team has probably passed Insomnia in my mind. Not by a lot, but just enough. I still don't know anything about the coaching staff, though. And honestly, all of the bottom three could be mixed around a little bit. I think RTFM is unfortunately the worst. But I do think Insomnia and Six Blow, like, you could do this, and I wouldn't be upset. You could do this. Honestly, you could do this, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But this is just my opinion, my very scuffed opinion that I don't really care too much about. Because it's always hard to find the bottom three teams, right? I think here we start to get into, like, quote-unquote real teams. And the first quote-unquote real team is Honeypot. Honeypot is still competing. It's mostly the same roster. They have Adam, which is a massive boon. They have Young, who is a pretty good DPS player, who's played with Honeypot for a while and dominated on the hit scan slot. The rest of the roster, I'm not too sure about. I think Kame's okay, but they're coached by Dreamer. That's the other thing that I was looking at. They're coached by Dreamer. So I think that Honeypot has that going for them really well. I think I have a lot of faith in Honeypot to do well this time around. They've not played yet. They are going to be playing against a team called Teenage Rising, which they're going to probably dominate, and then probably going to go up against Far East Society, who they're also probably going to dominate. And then we're going to see if they are as good as DAF Esports. I don't think they're as good as DAF Esports. I think DAF Esports is an amazing team. Not even an amazing team, but just a very solid team. I think they're definitely going to be better than Vesta Crew. Vesta Crew... Is that really the end of the song already? Holy shit. I think that Vesta Crew is, like, or not I think, but Vesta Crew is made up of that mid to low level Korean contenders roster that you would always see everywhere, like, oh, this team's not very good, right? Griam has never made very high results in anything he's ever been in, as far as I'm aware. First place in Australia and New Zealand open division with JNGK, who were never very good. He replaced, they replaced 800 on Rhodes after they went Korean. Gurum is not a very impressive tank player. Off is an okay support player, played on Panthera, played on Up Academy. They're okay. Nothing impressive. Dart is fine. Right, played on Dreamers, I think, as a substitute again. Let me double check to make sure I'm not yapping. Yeah, they were a substitute for Top Dragon, who you're never going to sit in for Top Dragon. I think he did come in a couple of times for the other DPS player on that roster, but whatever. Wow, incoming ad break. Sorry, everyone in chat. Like, Dart's another one of those very unimpressive JNGK players, who I guess they're all kind of getting better because they're actually up at this level. Dagon is another support player who is on T1 Rookies, which is the academy team for T1. He was a sub for Sinpriza, played for Dreamers as a substitute again. Yep, substitute on Dreamers, and it's another one of those mid players. Minute is actually pretty good though. Minute is their other DPS player that's their hit scan, and Minute has been doing some good shit in the past. He was on Team Diamond way back when, and he was definitely the best player on that roster in my opinion. He played on Zero when Zero were pretty decent, and he played really well there. He's had some downs. On a few different teams, but I think Minute is the way that Vesta-Crew does anything in this tournament. Is there a way for me to, like... I guess I could just make it smaller. Vesta-Crew... I think Vesta-Crew is the worst Korean team by far. But I am very impressed with how much this team has improved over time. Like, this is Overwatch League level play, right? Yeti has Dongguk, Knife, Viper, Bliss, Irony. WAC has Junbin, Max, Chorong, Shu, Lip, Hisang. Team Falcons, we all know Team Falcons. Fucking From the Gamer has Flora and Alpha Yi, Violet Finn, Belstraya, Bernard. This is Overwatch League level play, and Vesta-Crew managed to get all the way up here. Nothing against Vesta-Crew, because that's a really impressive feat. No other, like, bad contenders teams, with the exception maybe of Sinpriza, have managed to get up this high. And they deserve credit for that, but I don't think they're making it very deep in the tournament. And now the question comes in. Do I think Sinpriza? I don't think so. This is actually tough. I think Sinpriza. I think Sinpriza's 10th. This is kind of crazy, actually, that I'm saying Sinpriza. And I would have said this before the matches. I'm not being swayed by the fact that Sinpriza lost to, like, I think Poker Face. Let me double check. It was either Poker Face or From the Gamer. Yeah, 3-0 by Poker Face. Okay. I don't think Poker Face is necessarily great, but I'm more so saying that I think Sinpriza is down here because the two top teams in the other two divisions are actually really solid. Those being Daffy Sports and Varel. They have very long-standing cores. They are the best players in their regions. And, like, I have very high faith in those rosters. Daff is kind of dominating right now, 3-0'd RTFM, who I think is not great, but, like, 3-0ing them is pretty big. This whole kind of squad, like, these bottom three are the bottom three, and then these three are all pretty close together. I think Daff is extraordinarily good. So I'm giving them a lot of credit, but I'm mostly giving them credit as a Pacific team, I'm gonna be honest. Like, they are by far the best Pacific team, and might be the best Pacific team we've ever had in Overwatch, which is not the highest bar, right? Korea and North America and Europe is usually where these super teams reside, but DAF is the teenage kings of super teams, in my opinion. I think Thailand is finally starting to show up and be, like, a good region. Maybe not the best, but, like, they're showing up lately. Like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams out of 8 in Pacific that are almost entirely, or at least majority, Taiwan. Or Thailand, rather. Yeah, and all of those teams are really good. Not all of those teams. DAF is the only really good one, but I see the Thailand awakening in Overwatch. It's the next Saudi Arabia at this rate. Not quite to the same level, of course, but it's coming up, man. Just wait. Just fucking wait. I do think that I have to, like, if I'm doing tier breaks, let me start merging shit. I have too many layers. But if I'm doing tier breaks, I would say you got a tier break right here. You got a tier break right here, right now. These three teams could all take a game off each other. These three teams could all take a game off each other. And I do think I have to put DAF, unfortunately. I want to put DAF higher. But I just can't in good faith. I already talked about DAF a lot. But I think last time the DAF core went against Varel, they lost. I can double check real quick though. DAF versus Varel. Let's see, the finals is DAF Esports versus Varel. And no, actually DAF beat Varel. So never mind. Alright. Fuck yeah, DAF, you're going up. Varel, you're slumping here. That gives me an opportunity to talk about Varel. They are the #1 team in the Japanese region right now. Right, Insomnia and Six Blow are the other two teams, and they're down there. Japan has never been a very strong region for Overwatch, but I think that they are also on the up and up. Varel being the main proprietors of that fact. You have Nico and QKey, who I think are a decent DPS line, KSG and Plankton, who cover each other well on tank, and then Mint, Cloud, and Mihawk on support, all of who are pretty solid. But it's just kind of like a very solid team. I don't know if Varel could actually beat Sinpriza. Is that? Yep, right, that's so. So I actually would put the tier break up right here, because that feels a lot better. That feels so much better in my brain. DAF are just so good though. I love DAF. Ace and High Vision are great players. Pally and Ibang, great support lineup. And they have Dank and Clear on tank. Clear, I'm not as informed of. He's apparently in Boise. And Boise's really good. Apparently played with Timeless and won the Flash Ops Showdown. Apparently Clear's a really good player who I haven't seen much of, but Dank is a very good player who I know has played for a while. He's been on this team for about 6 months now, actually, believe it or not. He's played on DAF for quite a long time. Before that, he was on Kraken Esports Club, and he was also really good on Kraken Esports Club. And it was basically the same roster. So yeah, this roster has a lot of synergy built over time as well. And if I was cracked out of my mind, I would put them up another spot. But I'm not cracked out of my mind. I mean, I am, but I'm not. But if you're worried about, like, oh, what are the Korean teams up to? What are their best teams? This is the part where you can start watching. This is the part where I think, like, you're actually going to care. DAF can punch up to some of these big guys, but this is the part where I'm actually going to talk about the teams with names that people recognize. Right? Every team remaining has exclusively former Overwatch League players, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Every other team from this point moving forward, with one exception, that will be next, has exclusively Owl talent. And that team is Pokerface, the one that doesn't. Pokerface did get a 3-0 on Sinpriza, which I don't think is the most impressive thing. I don't think Sinpriza is very good, even though they have Tuyu and Lee Soo-min. I think Aid and Argon are a very middling DPS duo. I should have talked about Sinpriza more earlier. I think Milgaru is a very, very middling tank player and doesn't complement Tuyu very well. I would rather just have Tuyu than have Milgaru and Tuyu. And then Hyunjae kind of sucks, in my opinion. I don't like Hyunjae. I think Hyunjae is extremely overrated, and people don't even rate him very highly. I just think he's pretty bad. I would much rather have had, like, and I would honestly consider getting Daegun over Hyunjae, because Daegun is a talent you can develop. I'm not a very big fan of the Sinpriza lineup. But Pokerface, I also am not, in theory, a big fan, because their tank line doesn't inspire confidence. Pepe and Jasmine. Jasmine played on Dreamers in the past, as well as Team Diamond, but has never put up any major results. In most high-tier tournaments, Jasmine's been pretty mid, like on SN or SLT, not SNT, On SLT, he was pretty middling, right? Lost to T1 3-1. Back when that T1 team wasn't the best, I don't think. Yeah, that was Alien, Kleston on DPS, Arpin on tank, Unique, and a Peach. That was not a very good roster. But SLT weren't the worst team back then. I give them crap, but they weren't that bad. Meanwhile, Peppy was on Poker Face for a while. Not the best. So, but he does have the existing synergy with the team. Xiao Hui still coach. Blue has, I believe, is new. Yeah, former Shanghai Dragons coach. Red has is who they used to be. That sounds more familiar. Coach for the 2019 season of Shanghai Dragons as well, by the way. That's pretty impressive. That's something to put on your resume. Was there when they hit first in the Stage 3 playoffs. As for the DPS lineup, Finale, Proud, Becky, pretty solid. Pretty solid. Support lineup, Faith, Simple, Iris, very solid. Very solid. Iris is fantastic. I think Iris is the best player I've talked about so far. Right? This is not... There we go. Iris is definitely the best player I've talked about so far. I mean, Daff has some pretty good players. Daff has some pretty good players. Ace and High Vision and Pali, I think, are all great. I love Zhao Lian. Cloud is really good over on Varel. Adam is great, but Iris is clearly the best player out of all the teams mentioned so far. This just looks kind of empty. Let me fix this. There we go. But I do think the Poker Face roster is pretty solid. It's just below the next few teams. But then out of these next teams, how the fuck am I supposed to rate these, man? Oh, this is how. Put Yeti next, because I fucking hate Yeti. I don't even hate Yeti. I just don't like Yeti. They have Fate and Flood on coaching, which... that's a red flag to me, personally. Not a lot of faith in those two, personally. But the reason I don't like this team is because Irony's on it. I don't think Irony's good. I think Irony's really bad, in fact. Yeah, he was good on a few cases. He was in Vegas, I forgot about that. Mid-ass fucking team. Irony's not good at the game, I don't think. I think Irony's worse than most of the other players. I think every other flex support in the region is better than Irony. I feel so bad for Knife in particular on this team. Viper's pretty solid. I think Viper's the next best player on this team behind Knife. So their DPS lineup is going to be what carries them, in my opinion. Then Bliss is also pretty good. I think he was overrated coming into the Overwatch League. But I do think that he deserves credit as being a very solid player, right? Not quite the second coming of Chio, but he is still very good. As for Tank, Dongok, we need to see him play on this team a little bit in order to really recognize how good he is. But I'm not a fan of Yeti. I hate Irony. Every team that Irony's on, I always think is bad. And that's not stopping now. I think next does have to be Runaway. And this is the most runaway roster that has ever been formed since that Bumper Haxal Stitch roster all the way back when, with Kaiser and shit. This is textbook Runaway. Lee J, Gon, and Mag are your big names. Zest is the bigger kid, who's not quite a big name. Then you have Vigilante, who has gotten so little chances in the past in Overwatch League. And you have Prophet, Little P, the only Prophet in Overwatch Esports now, very sad. But I'm so glad Prophet is getting another chance, Little P. Mag played really well in the last season of the Overwatch League, and he finally gets another chance. Lee J gone. An enter for sure, but a welcome one. Vigilante is a very strong flex support. Very, very strong. I think that Vigilante was top 5 last Overwatch League season for flex supports. It's just that he was benched for Fielder, who was top 2. Then you have Prophet and Zest. I rate Prophet. I think he was just a bad fit on that Soul Dynasty team, and I'm glad he's getting his next chance. And Zest is obviously Zest. The only problem with it, and they actually have Chara as coach as well, who coached Soul Inferno that last season. So you get to keep some of that Soul Inferno core with Runaway, right? Zest, Mag, who are really the only 2 people you're keeping. You have, I would have loved to see Skewed on this roster, but you already have Vigilante. If Skewed could have stayed on this roster as like the 6th man, that would be amazing. So you don't have to put Lee J Gon in for certain maps if you need double flex support, although Lee J Gon I'm sure can make it work. But the only problem with this team is it's just not a powerhouse compared to the top 4. The top 4 are the top 4. Right? Like, these are the big guys up here. Like, holy fuck, these are good fucking teams. And somehow the one with Violet is the worst of the 4 of them. Somehow, an Overwatch team with Violet is not in the top 3 for like the first time ever, in my opinion. They have Flora and Alpha Yi. Glad to see them coming back together. Very good. Sorry, I got distracted by a notification. Really good roster. Really good DPS lineup. They complement each other beautifully. Finn and Violet. Finn scares me a little bit, but Violet is Violet. Bell Soraya, I have more faith in than most, and Bernard is fantastic. Neko and Yaki coaching staff concerns me a little bit. Incredible team. And they belong here specifically because it's just like Runaway. It's just like Runaway. They're just not, they don't have the muscle that the higher few teams do. And they're slightly better because they have Violet. Like Violet to Lee Jigon, I'd rather have Violet. Finn to Vigilante, I'd rather have Vigilante. Flora to Zest, I think, or Flora to Prophet rather, I'd rather have Flora. Alpha Yi to Zest, I think Alpha Yi takes the edge. Coaching staff, I think Runaway's a little better. Belsraya and Bernard versus Mag, I'd rather have Mag. But From the Gamer just has that muscle of Violet and the core DPS duo of Flora and Alpha Yi. So fucking good, man. So fucking good. But these top 3 teams, man, these are fucking super teams. I might be cracked up my goddamn mind, but why the fuck do I love a team with Decay on it? What happened to me to where I will rate a team with Decay on it? Top 3. 1. Decay's on hit scan. He's not playing flex DPS this time. He can actually play the role he's good at. Choice A1 is an incredible second DPS option. I'm definitely cooking with this one. This is my biggest cook take of this stream/video. But I think Kellen and Kalios. Kellen is really underrated. Kalios is fairly solid as a backup option. But Kellen is so good. People call him mid as shit, but he's been on some rough rosters, and he's finally got a chance to really like bust open his skill on a team with Decay on hit scan. Taru and Maka make a really good support lineup. Maka is special. People like to say, "Oh, you don't know that." Maka is special. Maka is really fucking good. I know why they scouted him. It's because he's a crazy player. He's like the only good player on every roster he's ever been in until he was picked up for Overwatch League. Maka is a fucking talent, without a doubt. And then Terry moving over to main support does raise some red flags, but I'm cooking, man. I'm cooking. I love this roster. This roster just puts a smile on my face. But then comes the big two. The two teams that are super teams by Overwatch League perspectives. These two teams would have competed for the first place position last year, and both could have beaten the Florida Mayhem. These are the two best teams Overwatch might have ever built. These two teams are what Overwatch means. This is what competitive Overwatch is. This is the spirit. This is what competitive Overwatch has been building up to. WAC and Team Falcons. WAC has Lip, Falcons has Proper. WAC has Hisang, Falcons has Stalker. Junbin to Smurf. Max to Hanbin. Chorong to Chio. Shu to Fielder. Even in the coaching staff, it's Moon to Krusty. It's Pavane to Junkbuck. It is the single biggest rivalry I think we have ever been able to build. The best player on every position. The best main DPS player with Proper and Lip. The best second DPS player for Stalker and Hisang. The best tanks in Smurf and Junbin. Max gets blown the fuck out the water by Hanbin. We don't need to talk about that part. Chio and Chorong. Shu and Fielder. Even in the coaching staff, Krusty, the GOAT. Moon, the man who toppled Krusty. Pavane, the very first season of NYXL under his belt. Coaching the Shanghai Dragons the year after the championship. And Junkbuck, the team who made the Houston Outlaws good. The man who made the Houston Outlaws good. Which team is the best? I don't fucking know, man. I think this is so hard. This might be the hardest placement I've ever had to do in a power ranking. This is the two teams. This is, if you ask 10 people to build the best team in Overwatch history, you will get all of these players with the exception of Max and Surmajet. And maybe Hisang, maybe Junbin, maybe Stalker. But all of these players will appear somewhere in one of those lists. So fucking hard, man. I'm gonna do something crazy. I think WAC is better. That's all I want. I think WAC is just barely better. Why do I think WAC is better? They have the worst player on both these rosters by far. They have the inferior coaching staff. They have less synergy. Why do I think this roster is better? I think WAC only has room to grow. Lip is the most experienced player on this roster. Shu is the most experienced player on this roster. Lip is the second most. Everybody else has played 1 to 2 seasons in Overwatch League. Chorong played 2. Hisang played 1. Junbin played 1. Max played 1. Team Falcons, these are kind of the old men. Chio has played in 2 seasons. Stalker played in 2 seasons. Proper played in 2 seasons. Fielder in 4. Or 3, rather. Right? 4 seasons for Fielder. 5 for Smurf. 4 for Hanbin. And Sermajed 2 or 3, I don't remember. But Sermajed's not going to play on this roster. He's the cheerleader. He's the water boy. He's an incredible player, but he's not playing over Chio or Fielder ever. Unless they're rolling some bad team. But I think WAC players, they have nowhere to go but up. This is the roster of players who are younger and hungrier. They are at this point of their story where they're only going up and then they'll fall. Team Falcons are right here. They're at their peak, but they're starting to fall. Smurf has said in the past that he's getting burnt out in the game, like 2 Overwatch League seasons ago, but Toby convinced him to continue. Hanbin, he's not necessarily washed, but it's definitely not quite his heyday, I don't think. Chio and Fielder are not the best anymore, which is the worst thing you can say about them. Proper has a massive ego, and Stalker is the young blood. I think Proper and Stalker is slightly better than Lip and Heesang. But then Junbin is where things tip in the scales for WEC for me. I think that Junbin is going to be a generational talent. I think Junbin only has room to grow. I think Junbin is only going to get better. Junbin is only going to improve. And when Junbin hits that point, there's nobody who's going to be able to stop him. There's nobody who's going to be better. But I guess that's it. That's my 2024 power rankings for the Apac region. I didn't go over every team. I think the most notable teams I didn't talk about, I guess, were Far East Society over in Pacific region. Maybe Pandia in Japan. But I think these are the only teams who have any relevancy. And that's it then. See you again for EMEA or NA.